Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here and welcome back to the channel for a long overdue update on Dogelon Mars, ticker symbol ELON. So, it's been a while since we've covered this, but I'm seeing something pretty crucial in the charts right now. I'm seeing a few magnet zones in which I think ELON is coming right for, and I also wanted to discuss with you where I plan on accumulating ELON coming into the next cycle. There's a few very interesting charts that I do want to discuss with you, so let's dive right in. Starting off with the lower time frames. On the daily, you can see for the past 6 months or so, ELON has been grinding up on this uptrending line of support, and this is actually a bump and run pattern. This is where you form a uptrending line of support. You have a bump from this trend line. You start forming a new trend line. We've got touch points, touch points, touch points, touch points, and we've just had this bump. And now in the past 2 days, we've started to have the run where we've broken to the downside, and it looks like we're starting to head down pretty quickly. In terms of the EMA ribbons on the daily, they are starting to turn down while the price is heading down. On the 4 hour, the 4 hour EMAs have already crossed bearish. And, you know, in the past hour or so, we did have a pretty big nuke. And it's looking like we're going to start heading back down to the downside. Bitcoin as well, on the 1 hour time frame right down here, is forming a bearish pennant, which it looks like it wants to get continuation from this 4 hour bear flag. So with Bitcoin looking like it wants to head down, with ELON in the lower time frames heading down, it's looking like we're going to start heading down to some of these macro price targets, which I do want to discuss in this video. Now, if we start off on this chart, but quickly just look at the Heikenashis, you can see that we are starting to put in red after this trend, which historically normally means that you do have a somewhat sizable move coming down to the downside. Now, we haven't seen any major moves back down to the downside for ELON in quite some time, since we have been holding this trend line for absolutely ages, since back in June. You can see we've been holding this for approximately 260 days or so. But why do I think this time's going to be different, and why do I think we're going to start breaking to the downside when we do come down to this trend line? Well, first of all, you can see if we do come back down to this macro trend line, this is going to be about a 27% drop for ELON, which interestingly comes into correlation with this trend line, but not only this trend line, this big cluster of volume right here over on the VPVR. And this is one of your last volume profiles before we do start tapering down into the abyss. And we do have price targets to the downside after there. You can see there are big volume clusters down here that also come into confluence with this 1.236 Fibonacci retracement target. So I do think these are targets to keep your eyes on in the higher time frames. For example, if we do start falling beneath this level, we have a 27% drop, and we start falling beneath this 2.7 level. I'm not going to be mentioning all of the zeros every time I give a price target. Otherwise, you know, it's going to be a half an hour video, and I'm going to be saying we're going to drop down to 0.000000027 or whatever it is. So, you know, feel free to look at the right side of the screen in correlation with this. But a 27% drop down to this 2.7 level. If we lose this, the next area of support is where the volume profiles are, a 53% drop. The next support level to the downside from there is a 63% drop, and the next support level to the downside from there is about an 80% drop down to these volume profiles. Now, if you're looking at KuCoin, this point of control down here where most of the data was traded, as you can see, it comes into correlation with this range. It is a 83% drop to where all the volume is in the market. If you come over to Gate.io, some of these are slightly different depending on what exchange you're looking at. This one's a 78% drop, and you know, you get the picture. I've looked for a few of these before recording the video. Over on Poloniex, over on this chart, this is the last one I'll show you. This is about a 84% drop. So on average, it's looking like this huge point of control down here, which is in correlation to this big area that we spent a decent amount of time volume trading at. This is where, you know, the magnet zone is. This is where there's a lot of data traded in the market, and as ELON has been holding up so well on this trend line, it's looking like once we do lose it, we're going to have a lot of room to move to the downside because of how well we've been holding up. So how do I think we lose this trend line? Well, if we come over to our next chart, you can see we are forming a pretty ugly but a textbook head and shoulders pattern. You can see this one is not the nicest one, however, 100% valid. However, what does ELON follow? ELON follows Doge, and if we come over to Dogecoin, you can see a absolutely beautiful textbook head and shoulders pattern is forming over on Dogecoin right now. The only difference is that Dogecoin is 5% away from retesting this trend line, and potentially if we fall beneath this, if Dogecoin starts falling 6, 7, 8%, we're going to start falling through the floorboards, and Doge, your Sheebs, your leading dog coins are going to start melting to the downside. And with this, If we come over to Elon, the only difference is that Elon is about 25% away from coming down to this head and shoulders price target. And we're going to talk about, how overextended Elon is in terms of the oscillators in just 1 second. But yeah, if we do break to the downside of this head and shoulders price target for Dogelon, so once again, about 25% drop down to this retest region. If we lose this, you could start seeing Elon drop about 68%, which is personally not where I plan on buying. Like I said at the start of the video, if we look at where the most amount of volume is traded in the market, this is really where I want to start picking back up Elon for this cycle. Because if you didn't know, Elon is actually one of the dog coins which I do favor. I do plan on getting this into the next cycle. Like I said, haven't covered this in a while. I warned you that this was coming, 5 months ago, 8 months ago. 8 months ago, I told you, these bearish signals were coming for this coin. And we have had some pretty sizable moves back down. But with that being said, this is really where I plan on getting back into the market. So you can see these big areas all the way down here is where I plan on buying, which is about an 80% drop away down to the volume profile. So with that being said, like I said, this 25% drop down to this trend line is a magnet zone. After we lose, then we've got about a 70% drop down to this huge area of volume. But how quickly can we head back down? Let's talk about this in our final chart. So if we come over to this chart over here, pull up our divergence cheat sheet, you can actually see that we're currently forming something called hidden bearish divergence. This is when you have the price making highs, lower highs, lower highs, and lower highs. And while this is a linear downtrend on the price, you can not see that there's a linear uptrend on the oscillator. So we've got a curvature line, and you can see we've got a high, we've got a higher high, we've got a higher high, and a higher high. Now, right now, the RSI is super overextended in comparison to the price. The RSI just keeps on becoming more overextended, more overextended, more overextended, more overextended, while the price just keeps breaking lower and lower and lower. So it's looking like Elon is in for a hard time right now, just like a lot of the other dog coins. But with that being said, how long could this hidden bearish divergence take to come into effect? Well, with Dogecoin on the cusp of deciding whether it wants to break down to the downside, and with this head and shoulders looming for Elon, it doesn't seem like this breakdown is too far away. And if we come over to the oscillators on the weekly time frame, the oscillators are as extended right now as they were during Elon's peak back on the 21st of October 2021. So you can see the stochastic RSI quite recently hit almost 100. It came up to about 98. For the first time since the bull market. You can see the MFI is super overextended right now. The RSI has been grinding up higher and higher. And if we are looking at these oscillators, they've got a lot of room to move back down. In fact, the squeeze momentum indicator is actually starting to trickle back into dark green, indicative that we could be starting a new bearish trend. So that's really all I wanted to share for you for Elon today, my friends. Like I said, we do have a critical decision coming very soon with Dogecoin heading down to this head and shoulders neckline. How long do you think it will take for Elon to come back down to it? I don't think very soon. And once you start seeing Dogecoin start breaking to the downside following Bitcoin's next breakdown, it's looking like Elon could start becoming magnetized to these huge areas of volume support. And as we do come down here, this is really where I start planning on getting back into the market. Of course, nothing set in stone. I would like to think that I would start accumulating after about an 80% drop. However, this is a bear market. I need to see Bitcoin pivot. I need to see the stock market look like it's getting ready to pivot. And while I won't discuss Bitcoin and the stock market in this video because this is an altcoin video, but if you are new to the channel, warm welcome. I do not just look at an altcoin chart to decide where I think things are going. I'm one of the few YouTubers that talks about Fed commentary, on-chain metrics, stock markets, equity markets, bond markets. I discuss a lot of different things on my channel. So with that being said, I think Elon's bearish, I think Bitcoin's bearish, I think the equity markets are bearish, I think the dollar and the bond market are bullish, and all of these things together kind of tie in the macro picture why Dogelon should definitely be dropping about another 80%, and that is potentially where I plan on getting back into the market. So for today, my friends, that is all I've got. Keep your eyes on the levels that I've highlighted. If we do start breaking down from this head and shoulders, it's going to get pretty ugly. As always, if you do enjoy my content, let me know down below by leaving a like and a comment. Share the videos with your friends. If you do want more of my posts, charts, memes, economic data, more about my personal life, be sure to follow me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy. But like I said, for today, that's all I've got. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'm out. Peace.